Man, oh man. What a week, guys. What a couple of weeks. What a couple of months. Hell, what a flippin' year. We're in the new year. This is 2020, and this is the pre-party for NWA POWERRR. And I'm your host, J Cal. And it's only me today. We're flying solo. There is nobody else. No one actually sits in this studio. This is just for Jay. And we do this every Tuesday, or usually every pre-party for the NWA Power. You guys are blowing me away with the support. Of course, I'm going to address the elephant in the room. There is another podcast going right now, and I want to wish Gary Horn all the best in the world. But that'll be the last time I talk about that other podcast. We've been doing this for a couple of weeks at this time, at this place, and I appreciate you guys for checking us out. Please don't feel like you have to choose one or the other. If you don't want to watch this show live, you can always watch it afterwards, or you can always watch theirs afterwards. I won't take any hard feelings, but of course, I do greatly appreciate your support. I do want to shout out to the newest members of our family who have decided to subscribe. And if you haven't done so yet, just hit the subscribe button right around here somewhere. And that would be Henry B., Mike Young, The Night Lamp 1, SoCal Uncensored, Not the Stable, and also Mike Lancaster and Daniel Escanaba. I really don't mean to butcher your name, but that's just how it goes. So a couple things we're going to get to today, and first and foremost, you'll have to bear with me. There was a death in the family yesterday, and not my family, not my blood, but certainly somebody who I held a large amount of respect for, a former NWA promoter. He was the voice of many of Southern California's best wrestling promotions, including the early days of Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, Ultimate Pro Wrestling, and Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and I'm talking about John Ian. So if you'll just give me a moment here to talk about my friend who we lost yesterday. John was a good man. John was very kind to my family, and John had a way of making everyone felt like they belonged. John did a good job of trying to be very inclusive. And his pro wrestling company, Mach 1, which had ties to Championship Wrestling from Hollywood and promoted many NWA events, did such a great job of meshing talent, whether it be top-tier talent or guys just trying to break in. John Ian did a wonderful job of trying to include everybody and tried to make things work. Like I said, he was the voice of a lot of the wrestling promotions out here in Southern California. And Mach 1 Wrestling ran from 2008 to 2013 with their first event happening in Santa Ana, California. They had many events. In fact, they had a weekly television show at the Anaheim Sports Center, or I think it was the American Sports Center in Anaheim, where they featured so many great NWA talents, guys that you're still talking about today. And let me just run down some of the names that wrestled for Mach 1 in that 5-year span. Willie Mack, former NWA National Champion. Eli Drake. Championship Wrestling from Hollywood wrestlers like Johnny Goodtime, or as he's known now, BHK. Joey Ryan. Johnny Yuma. TJ Perkins. Rocky Romero. Carl the Machine Gun Anderson. Big Watts, Ryan Taylor, Scorpio Sky. John Ian was one of the first guys to really showcase Brian Cage and Sean Ricker. In fact, it was in Mach 1 Wrestling where they became natural selection. He would bring in talents, big name talents, Brian Kendrick, Scotty 2 Hotty, Christopher Daniels, Blue Demon Jr., Scrap Iron Adam Pierce. He also brought in Shelton Benjamin, booked a match between Shelton Benjamin and Scorpio Sky. Brought in Steve Corino to take on Joey Ryan. I'm gonna miss John Ian, and it's what really gets me is, guys, I was just talking to him on the 26th, and I was trying to encourage him to come back to promoting wrestling, and he had told me at the time that his doctors had advised him against it, to take things slowly, and so we lost John Ian, and I think SoCal is better off for having known John, and I, for one, I miss my friend, and that's about it. I hope I'm not holding my breath for the NWA to go out of their way to acknowledge John or his accomplishments for the NWA, but I do want to be the one to just go ahead and put it out there that John was a good dude, did a lot to help the NWA in Southern California, and really the NWA as a whole. So we'll miss you, Sean. We'll miss you, Sean. So real quick, you guys have already lined up with some comments, so let's see what you're saying. Roscoe says he's double watching the stream here, double the NWA content. Roscoe, I got no problem with that. More power to you, buddy. Michael says, hey guys, what's up, Michael? Sean says he's listening, but he won't be chatting this time. That's cool, Sean. Hey, I just appreciate you watching, man. Yes, I am in the house. Yeah. And Michael says, into the fire. Yeah, we sure are. Lamb says, the AllianceBlog family. Yeah, man, I mean, I like you guys. You're super supportive. You make me feel appreciated. And as long as we keep getting people watching the show, I'm going to keep doing this stuff. I really appreciate you guys. Like I said, there's other content out there. There's other things to be doing with your time, and you choose to sit here with me talking about the NWA, talking about NWA Power, and it means the world to me, so I appreciate you. Roscoe says there's a very cute photo of Marquez resting his head on John like a bromance. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, and John was a friend to everyone. It's crazy. It's crazy that to me that he's gone. And I don't want to harp too much on this, but even Sunday was the pre-show, or excuse me, the Sunday was Championship Wrestling from Hollywood's kickoff to the PP3 Cup. And I was there. I took some pictures. I'll be posting more of that content soon. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. And Dave Marquez held up the urn that they used to represent the PP3 Cup. Now, that if you guys aren't familiar with Championship Wrestling from Hollywood or the PP3 Cup, that was all based off of Percy Pringle III, a.k.a. William Moody, or as the WWE audience knows him as Paul Bearer. Paul Bearer would take the urn to that ring, and that was actually the last urn that was used by the World Wrestling Entertainment for that gimmick, for that angle, before they killed off the character. So when Paul Bearer when Percy Pringle brought the PP3 Cup, the idea was that this was going to be a way to showcase his talent and get his guy a fast track to get a shot at the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. Now, times have changed over the years because Hollywood was no longer affiliated, but it became a top prize because the winner of that would get to challenge for any title in Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. During the course of those early years, John Ian was the on-camera authority figure for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and Sean Ricker and Ryan Taylor were actually the finalists for that first PP3 Cup. And Dave Marquez retold the story on Sunday about how there's a dent on that urn from when Percy Pringle hit John in the head with it. He wasn't really supposed to connect, but I guess he got a little bit anyway. So there's a tiny little dent in it. And this was before any of us knew that he'd passed away. So I'm hoping that up in heaven they're sitting there joking around about wrestling and talking. The Pope's podcast has me pumped up for what's coming up. I didn't know the Pope had a podcast. I didn't. I really like the Pope. I was a big Elijah Burke fan when he first stepped foot into the WWECW, and I really thought he had so much charisma and so much wrestling ability. And he came in with Sylvester Turkey. You guys don't remember Sylvester Turkey? Another throwback to SoCal. He actually was training out here with UPW before he was signed to the WWE. And Sylvester Turkey was a kind of like not unlike Bruiser Brody, a big dude, but he could actually wrestle. He was a legitimate wrestler. In fact, if you're reading Kurt Angle's book, They actually faced off in the amateur ranks years and years ago. Stan the Man is here. Thanks for coming, Stan. Appreciate you. Michael says it's called the Pope's Point of View. Yeah, that makes sense. Again, he's a super talented guy. In fact, one of our Twitter followers at the Rattle UK, I call him Mike. Mike was talking about he wants to see the Pope challenge for the 10 pounds of gold. I don't know that the Pope is still wrestling. I haven't done enough research. I think he's taken a sabbatical from in-ring competition. He still looks like $1 million. I bet you he could get in the ring and still look good. But if he has a health concern or something along those lines that are preventing him from stepping back into the ring, I could totally understand. However, could you imagine the Pope cutting promos with Nick Aldis? That'd be electric, man. That'd be dynamite. I'm all for it. One of the best things about the Elijah Burke is his ability to cut a promo, his ability to get over, and of course, I think that's what they're going to do with him in the Hollywood, or excuse me, in NWA Power now, is that he's going to be used to kind of help elevate some of the other talent. It seems like they're going to pair him with Homicide and Eddie Kingston, which is a little baffling to me because Eddie Kingston's one of the best talkers in the company. It's not like he needs somebody to get him over, but he said he's looking for his horsemen. He's looking for his superpowers. So we'll see, man. I don't know. It's exciting. I think the more we're getting some more credible names, and that's not to dismiss some of the guys who are wrestling at NWA Power now, but you're getting more of these credible names, guys that coming from Impact or WWE who have value but maybe hadn't been utilized, are getting an opportunity to showcase themselves here in Atlanta, Georgia. Well, not here, but there in Atlanta, Georgia. And I think this is getting really exciting. DCAM told me to get a job. I have a job. Roscoe says, my favorite Burke match was at Mania in the tag match against the ECW Originals. That was pretty fun too, right? I mean, I have fond memories of a lot of those matches. And he seemed so poised to kind of make a big impact. And I think they even called him the next big thing before Drew Galloway showed up. Like he was the chosen one. So I'm all for it. More comments. Stan says Pope stable versus Aldis' stable. Sure, why not? Why not? The Horsemen had the dudes with attitudes. The Horsemen had the superpowers. So why not? I'm all for it. Did anyone see the Kingston segment about him retiring? It's really good if anyone checks it out. I did not see the Kingston segment about him retiring, but I did see recently that Homicide is expecting to end his in-ring career soon. And I read somewhere that he's looking to get a position with the WWE or All Elite Wrestling as a trainer, which I can't blame guys for wanting to extend their career in professional wrestling. I can't blame guys for wanting to get an opportunity to continue to provide for their families through pro wrestling. I just wish he had more time. I think Homicide and Kingston are such a great resource for the NWA. So much talent, so much untapped potential. Let me say something here that my buddy Kevin Douglas would agree with me. I think the Rock and Roll Express time has expired in the NWA. I think the nostalgia is starting to wear off. If not on you, it's worn off on me. And I'm ready to see those guys, ride off into the sunset. And when you've got tag teams like Latimer and Isaacs, and you've got tag teams like Homicide and Kingston, or whichever potential tag team can come up with Eli Drake or Ken Anderson and Colt Cabana, whatever it is, why do we still push guys who are in their mid to late 60s? Who obviously can't go the way they used to. Sorry guys, I'm a voice for the fans. I'm not a corporate stooge. I'll tell you what I think always and often. And I'm over it. I'm over the Rock and Roll Express. And those titles should be on the waist of Kingston and Homicide, or back on Latimer and Isaacs. Just, I don't know why they're on the Rock and Roll Express. Roscoe says, Ron says, I just switched from Roku, watching you on the big screen on the YouTube app. Such sad news about John Ian. One of my first memories of championship wrestling from Hollywood was him interviewing Willie Mack. Yeah, and so John was a proponent for, of course, African American wrestlers. He saw that there was a lacking of African American wrestlers, not just for Dave's promotions, but all of the local Southern California promotions. So when he started Mach 1, he made sure that there was equal opportunity for a lot of guys. But Willie Mack, Watts, Scorpio Sky, Josh Rose, Brandon Leo, a lot of these guys didn't get opportunities elsewhere. In fact, the last heavyweight champion of Mach 1 wrestling was a fellow by the name The Chef, and this is, sorry to go off on a tangent here, but he was the last heavyweight champion. And this is how the world is so small. My wife used to work at a security company that was doing dispatch, and the chef, well, the chef is a wrestler from the South, from Georgia, and he moved out to California for an opportunity to wrestle, but nobody would give him a shot. Nobody. And I'm not saying that I had anything to do with it, but I told my wife, and if you guys haven't seen the chef, he actually resembles Booker T quite a bit in terms of both size and stature and appearance. But he wears an apron. Anyways, so the chef was talking to my wife because my wife was such a huge NWA fan because, that's all I ever talked about. And he saw her looking at a website, mine, alliance-wrestling.com, and he says, "Oh, you like wrestling? I'm a wrestler." And she says, "Well, what companies do you work for?" And he's like, "Well, nobody right now." And so she tells me this conversation, and I said, "Hey, why don't you contact John Ian in Anaheim? He has a promotion called Mach 1 Wrestling." And sure enough, he did. And sure enough, he started wrestling there. And he was the last Mach 1 wrestling heavyweight champion. Again, I'm not taking credit for it. The guy was a hard worker and had a great look, but that's the kind of guy John Ian was. He gave opportunities to guys who deserved it, who could run with the ball. Let's see. Michael Manning says, "Get 2 jobs." Jeez, man, I kind of thought this was my second job. DKM says he doesn't know much about the Pope. Yeah, I mean, look, his the whole the WWECW was such a shot in the, it was brief. It didn't last very long. So for anyone who didn't follow it or doesn't remember it, I don't blame you. He did have a run in Impact, but I think he spent more time behind an announcer's desk than he did actually in the ring, so I don't really know. Kingston said he was retiring in 2019, but his brother asked him to be his godfather of his child, and then Kingston said, "Yeah, I'll teach him hard work and morals," but the brother said, and yet you quit. Well, that's pretty messed up. Roscoe then mentions the War Kings, brother. Hell yes, the War Kings, but, it seems like right now Crimson is, he's still working backstage as a producer for the show. And honestly, if you guys are watching Jack Stane, he is competing at a high level for Ohio Valley Wrestling, and I don't know if and when we'll see Jack Stane return to the NWA, but I'm a big proponent of Jack's. I'd like to see him come into the NWA. I'd be very excited about that. And just one more championship wrestling from Hollywood note. If anyone's a Stu Stone fan, I did see Stu Stone this weekend, and we talked briefly about the NWA. And if you guys want to speak that into the universe, he would love an opportunity to be a part of the NWA. I know when in some circles that I'm in, when they were looking for a replacement for Jim Cornette, some people were suggesting Stu Stone. Obviously, the NWA misunderstood and got Stu Bennett. But if you guys like Stu Stone, he would be he'd love to work for the NWA. So speak that out in the universe as you will. Michael Manning says, "I could listen to Ricky Morton all day. He doesn't necessarily have to be in the ring in the future." Absolutely. And that's the other thing. My co-host for the Alliance Guys podcast, Kevin Douglas, will tell you there's a time and place for Ricky Morton. Now, he's not Kevin's particular cup of tea, but he could be sitting in that announce booth. He's certainly worthy of all the adulation that they receive. They're certainly worthy of all the praise that they get. I just don't know if I want to see him in the ring anymore. And it's not a shot at Ricky Morton. It's just he's old. I mean, for Kevin Douglas, it's a little bit different. He's not a huge fan. I'm fine with Ricky Morton. In fact, I popped when they won the tag titles, but it seems like the nostalgia's worn off on me, and I don't want to see guys who should be at a high level jobbing for guys who are not. Lamb says, Homicide told me that today's segment by Pope, Eddie, and Homicide will break the internet. All right. I'm all for the internet being broken. Roscoe says, yeah, I love the Rock and Roll Express. And look, there was a time and place I did too. And in fact, I was one of those guys that was in the arena that popped hard when they won the tag titles. But I thought it was going to be one of these deals where they win the titles, then they drop the titles, and then they exit off into the sunset. I don't want to see them every week. When they wrestled that enhancement tag team I think it was 2 episodes ago, it wasn't pretty. Their skills weren't as good as they used to be, and it's like the boxer that keeps going out there and just getting beat. I'm beating a dead horse right now. You guys get what I'm saying. If whether you agree or disagree, you understand what I'm saying. Actually, on a random thing, there was a great internet 1v1 between Barrett Brown and Greg Anthony yesterday. They have a match coming up. Okay, so let's talk about guys who was absolutely just brutal in his on Billy Corgan and Dave Lagana taking over the NWA. In fact, he was very harsh, to say the least, about the two. I asked him once Power started airing, what were his thoughts, and he says, well, it's the closest thing to what I grew up with, but I still don't like it. That always puzzled me. These guys who claim to love the NWA and claim to think that this is an insult to the NWA, and I'm fine with that, but I don't know. Ulterior motives, I think. Ron says, you brought out the Rock and Roll Express for a feel-good moment. And it did feel good. But you put them in the first round against dem boys, and you knew it wasn't going to be good. You knew the Briscoes and the style doesn't really mesh. And you knew that, look, you knew the Rock and Roll Express were going to take some heat, take some punches, take some kicks. And they ended up doing the best thing they could for that match and then throwing it out. That way the Rock and Roll Express don't take a loss. Or at least take a pinfall, and the Briscoes don't look bad because they didn't lose, they just were disqualified. And then Ring of Honor brought the angle back up, and then that kind of kicked off this whole resurrection of the Rock and Roll Express. But for the NWA, you had the War Kings, you had PCO and Brody King, the villains, and we ended up getting a finals of Latimer and I, which I think PCO and Brody were the better choice. But when things didn't work the titles ended up going on Latimer and Isaacs, I think you got something. There's something there. In fact, we're going to talk about Royce Isaacs next, but that in just a minute. Roscoe says, I love Golden Boy Greg Anthony, but he's very outspoken. Yeah, and look, man, you're allowed to voice your opinion. You are. This is Roscoe, I think you're in Australia. I could be wrong. I think you are. But this is America. Greg Anthony's allowed to say whatever the hell he wants. That we're all free to say whatever we like. I think sometimes your voice, your what you say can get you in trouble, and I think that might be the case. Roscoe says, J. Cal, why do you think Thunder Rosa chose ODB for her match choice? Well, I mean, on the show, she didn't choose. Melina chose. And this is Melina's stable. That's why they keep saying Melina's girls or this is Melina's team. It's because Melina's in charge. Don't get me wrong, Thunder Rosa is the hottest female talent in wrestling today. And, I think she's even, right now, probably surpassed, old Becky Two Belts. But that was Melina's choice. And I think they did that to set up what is eventually going to be a babyface turn for Thunder Rosa, not Melina. But I don't know. None of this has been confirmed, and honestly, whatever spoilers I've read, I more or less have forgotten. With Thunder Rosa, again, I don't think they need to rush any of it. You know, Allison Kay is still a great champion. Get her out there defending that belt more and more. Get her out there. You know, don't let her end up like Rapata. Get her out there. Get her exposure. You know, I'd rather see Allison Kay taking on ODB than tag teaming, but that's not how the cookie crumbles. Sean says he can chat now. I think the NWA and Ring of Honor should work together again, especially for the tag team division. I think you're right, Sean. Look, I was told, I assumed the Ring of Honor deal came to a conclusion because the NWA was now focusing on their own television programming, that they were focusing on their own brand. That wasn't true. I was told the deal ended because it wasn't a good deal for anybody. It didn't work out for the favor of the NWA. It wasn't really adding much to Ring of Honor. And again, think about where the NWA was 6 months ago. They didn't have a successful program on YouTube. They didn't carry a lot of cachet or value. That was built literally in the last 2 months. Now, 10 pounds of gold did a lot to help propel the NWA, but let's be honest. NWA Power is a phenomenon. 200,000 people a week are watching this on YouTube. Now, before you guys say anything, sure, Ryan's Toy Review is getting 1 million views on every video, but, you know, that wrestling is very niche, okay? Pro wrestling is a niche market. The WWE found a way to appeal to a larger audience. The NWA doesn't have the WWE market. The NWA doesn't have the All Elite market. The NWA is very niche, and it's very small, and it's got a 20-year plan, and it's growing. But getting 200,000 people to watch your show, you know, MLW videos are getting like 80,000. It's a difference of 120,000 people. Where are those 120,000 people coming from? Roscoe says he is Aussie. I knew it. Ron says, I wish Taryn Terrell came into the NWA instead of Melina. And not only because she's pretty, she was a great wrestler. Yeah! Yes! Melina came from SoCal. That's our fault. We apologize. Melina was actually a prospect of the Empire Wrestling Federation, the same place that brought us Frankie Kazarian and brought Christopher Daniels into Southern California. Gave us Rocky Romero and TJ Perkins. These are all people who came from the School of Hard Knocks out in Southern California. Something happened to Melina between EWF and her time in WWE. She changed. She grew. She's a different person. I would say she was a very skilled wrestler when she went to the WWE, and I'm not really sure what happened. And I'm not trying to cast aversions. I think she actually looked really good in the last match she was on with the TV that did the 6-man tag. She actually looked really good. But you're right. I think if they were able to get Taryn, and I never could say her name right, Terrell, into the NWA, I think that would have been a great choice. Absolutely. Roscoe says, Thunder Rosa has blown up. She is so good. Yes, she just won the title in, I want to say it was the Tokyo Wrestling Promotion or something like that. A Joshi promotion based out of Tokyo where she won their women's championship, or the championship. Al says, will Girl Power be just a segment, or is it its own show? Al, you stumped me, brother. Welcome to the party, Big Chi. Pre-party. I don't know. I could see they're having value in creating a spin-off and doing maybe just a women's show, but really they don't have that much talent. And to me, the segment on the TV show kind of looked more like girl locker room talk than any actual, like, something I'd be interested in watching every week. So if it is going to be its own thing, like, they better put some more into it, more talent, more creative. I don't know. I found it to be kind of boring and, like, twisting my head. Why is Allison Kay taking advice from Ashley Vox or I don't know. I just thought it was silly. Who do I think will be main eventing Hard Times? that's something else we wanted to get to. I'll get to that in just a minute. And then the last thing is, I was thinking something happened with Molina and John Morrison and Batista. That's just a rumor I heard. I heard the same rumor. I don't really know what's true and what's not, so I don't want to get too much into it. But yeah, kind of weird. So I wanted to talk about Royce Isaacs. Royce Isaacs is a former NWA World Tag Team Champion, obviously with Latimer. He just brought out his lady, Old May Valentine, that sweet thing. What I want to say about Royce Isaacs is I don't think he is appreciated as much as he should be, and he just finished up at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Now, before Royce Isaacs became the NWA Tag Team Champion with Latimer, he is a former Championship Wrestling from Hollywood United Wrestling Network Television Champion. In fact, he was old Royce Two Belts for a while because he held the TV title, the United Wrestling Network TV title, and the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood Heritage title simultaneously. In fact, he was the guy to win the title after Willie Mack forfeited the title when Willie Mack won the NWA National title. Do you guys follow? Hopefully. He defeated Uptown Andy Brown on October 14, 2018 to win the Hollywood Heritage title. And then he was like I said, he was simultaneously the TV champion. He briefly lost that title to Bateman on May 13th, but then won that title back almost instantly. He also, he's a product of Colorado, so he was wrestling for Rocky Mountain Wrestling, and I don't want to get too much into that, but they have a show on Twitch. I think it's on YouTube as well. You can check them out. They were, for a while, affiliated with Championship Wrestling from Hollywood and United Wrestling Network. I don't know if they still are. He competed in DDT in Japan, and now that's a promotion. If you guys are familiar with Joey Ryan, that's where he got famous with his whole dick flip. But, he wrestled there as a serious competitor, and it was interesting when he competed there. The last thing I was going to say is he did wrestle teaming briefly with former NWA World's Heavyweight Champion Rob Conway when he was working for Future Stars of Wrestling at a show that they had when Stars Collide, which was on March 12th, 2017. The guy started wrestling in Japan 2 years after he broke into the business. Now, I know that's, Japan, when you say DDT versus New Japan Pro Wrestling, there's a huge difference. But there's something to be said when you're as a talent so young into your career and people are flying you out to Japan to wrestle. He did finish up in Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. He did lose the TV title to Dan Joseph. Great match. I was there live. I took a lot of photos. You'll see them on our Instagram account coming up soon, and a lot of other things. Royce is leaving Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. I don't know what the exact reason is because Hollywood and the NWA have a working relationship, so it's not unlike he can appear, but apparently, and our friend Lamb confirmed it, that he is leaving Hollywood, and I don't know, maybe this is forever, maybe it's just for a brief time, maybe he's going to be doing more touring. He used to team with Jarrell Nelson. Big Chief, you're still here. Jarrell Nelson has the 1%, and they were formerly the Defy Tag Team Champions. So we'll see what happens with Royce Isaacs. Again, he's in a pretty sweet spot with the NWA, and hopefully this is opening up more doors for him, and maybe this is just an opportunity to take advantage of those doors being opened. All right, let me see. What are you guys saying? I think something happened. Okay, we got that. Haha, sweet thing. Yep. He broke Jamie Ivan's heart. He did, man. And that whole upper class thing fell apart so fast, and I think it had such promise. I kind of hope that was going to transition to the NWA. When I go to Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, I kind of go there as a talent scout. Not that anyone's paying me for my opinion or anything, but I look at the talent and say, who could be that next guy? Who could take the next step? And there's guys there that I think would make an excellent addition to Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. And maybe that's a video that I'll make soon. We'll see. Ron says, do you know what Mike Yoshie is up to these days? NWA kid always uses him as a bruiser. It's funny you should mention that because, well, Mikey just showed up in Hollywood this weekend, which I was surprised. I wasn't expecting him. He looks in better shape now than he did the last time I saw him. The last time he was in Hollywood that I remember, Adam Pearce was throwing a fireball at his face. So it's good to see Mikey O'Shea back. I don't know how he fits into the current climate of the NWA, because when you say bruiser, in my mind I picture Trevor Murdoch. And if you can't make Trevor Murdoch look small, or at least match him in size, I don't know how you can come off as a bruiser. And I'm not trying to put down Mikey O'Shea. He's like a modern day Bam Bam Bigelow, but he isn't as tall, he isn't as big as Trevor Murdoch. So I don't see what capacity he can be used in. And I'm not saying you have to be 6'10 and 350 pounds to make it in the NWA, but I just don't see that opportunity for somebody like Mikey O'Shea. Not right now. Maybe later. You know, their roster has to grow. If they're going to do all these things with starting more programs, more spin-off series, if this is something they're going to do, then they're going to need to acquire more talent, which is when J-Cal comes in handy doing his expert analysis here on YouTube that, again, is completely free. Mike O'Shea is still wrestling, but only one promoter or so. Go to his Twitter. J-Cal, why do you think Hernandez hasn't joined Homicide with Kingston in the NWA? That's a great point. Why hasn't Hot Stuff Hernandez? I mean, he's got a track record with the NWA. He's a former tag team champion. He's a former North American champion. I'm not really sure. That's a good point. I mean, I know that he kind of burned some bridges when he was in Impact, and I don't know if those bridges were with Billy Corgan or Dave Lagana at the time. Maybe that's why. Because there was that point where he was working Lucha Underground and he got signed to Impact, but he didn't have the rights to be signed to Impact. And then they aired all these matches on Impact. And then Lucha Underground's like, hey, what the hell, man? You got a no-compete clause in your deal. You can't be doing this. So, Sean says, no Hernandez. I don't know, man. I thought he was good. I liked his tope suicida. Ron points out that it was a good point about the Wreck-It Mikey days. Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I like Mikey. And I think in the right position, he can flourish. I was surprised to see him in Hollywood. And I'm happy he's there. Roscoe says he wrestled on WrestleCade with Homicide and Latimer against the Rock and Roll and Aldous. Yeah, that was weird. I saw those. I didn't see it, but I saw the poster and I thought, why? That doesn't make sense. Even angle-wise, you know, I know that they were pushing this whole Strictly business. We all knew this was coming. And if you didn't know it was coming, you should have known it was coming. But regardless, yeah. So let's see, what else? Brett McKenzie would make a great partner for Tim Storm. DKM says, it is said he's difficult to work with. I've heard that about Hernandez as well. There's kind of a history with the NWA Southwest, although that doesn't exist anymore, where it was kind of hard to lock up dates with him. And then to the point of Brett McKenzie would make a great partner for Tim Storm. Yeah, Brett McKenzie would be good. Also, I think this guy right here, Mr. Jack Stain, would be a good choice as well. But nevertheless, I don't know exactly how this plays out with Aldous and Tim Storm. And this whole thing seems kind of weird to me because, and that's one of the other points I wanted to get to, is at the end of the pay-per-view, at the end of Into the Fire, we had the villain come down and essentially challenge the world's heavyweight champion and said, hey, I want another shot. I want another opportunity. And it just went on deaf ears. And then the very next night, they played two segments where not only was the villain interviewed by David Marquez, but then he's had a sit-down with Stu Bennett on the next TV show. Does it strike anybody odd that the NWA isn't running with this? That we haven't seen the villain back in the NWA since? And that you've got paper, this is where NWA team. Marty. Where's Marty? Marty, his contract with Ring of Honor is up. That's why he's available to go wherever he wants to. Are they not going to give us that match? I don't believe Marty's time in the NWA is going to be very long. I don't. It just doesn't make sense as a... If we all look at this realistically, right? The NWA is a much smaller scale promotion than All Elite Wrestling, even Impact Wrestling, even Ring of Honor, even the WWE, right? It just is. And Billy Corgan has money, but he's also said he's not going to just throw money away. So you've got an opportunity to have Marty Scurll in a match with Nick Aldis for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. Now, I don't know how soon that window closes, but if it closes this month, what have they done to hype up this match? The poster doesn't feature Marty Scurll on it. It features Camille and it features Tim Storm. So, to be honest, I don't know. I don't know what role this is going to play. Maybe Marty's going to come in and make sure Tim Storm wins the TV title, setting up the pay-per-view match in February with Nick Aldis. I don't know. But I just think this was a huge opportunity that the NWA should have capitalized on. And if they're not going to give it to us with the NWA Power, that they could have been doing this with 10 pounds of gold, but it just doesn't seem like they're doing anything with it. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Do you wear your work clothes? Wait, hold on a second. Roscoe says Brett McKenzie punched James Beard. Is he fighting Tim Storm? I know Brett McKenzie is somebody you don't want to be punched by. I know that he will wreck fools. Wreck fools. Lamb says, do you wear your work clothes? Yeah, these are my work clothes, man. I don't always... this was a weird day. I wasn't really awake when I left for work. I normally bring a t-shirt to change into when I'm doing these videos, but nevertheless, buckets for rent. If you guys need a bucket for your excavator or backhoe, give me a call. Roscoe says, yes on Jack Stane, he's the best. I know I can't be the only one to think Jack Stane is pretty good. Marty Scurll is random. Always is every appearance I see. Marty is random, and that's okay. I'm all right if he's not going to be on this pay-per-view. I'm okay with that. I just don't understand why there was that sudden rush on the first episode to feature him, and then nobody's talking about it. I mean, Tim Storm's talking about it at the announce desk, and that gets Nick Aldis pissed. But outside of that, we're not really talking about it. He's wrestling on the next Ring of Honor pay-per-view, and it's still an attack match. Is he? I was unaware of that. Maybe that contract is still valid. Maybe that's why he hasn't appeared on NWA Power. Maybe he was okay to appear on the pay-per-view. Somebody was telling me about MJF. I think it was actually Daryl who does the Road Wild with me. Big D. He goes to Championship Wrestling from Hollywood with me. And I think it was him telling me that when he signed his contract with MLW, they said, you can't appear in WWE programming, you can't have Impact, you can't have Honor, you can't appear in Mexico, this, that. But they didn't appear in All Elite Wrestling. So he signed with All Elite Wrestling while still being signed by MLW, and I guess for whatever reason it works for now. So maybe that's a deal with the villain. Maybe Marty can appear at indie shows or on pay-per-views, but not on TV. I don't know. I think when he drops the 6-man titles, then he'll come back and challenge Aldis. Stan says that. Yeah, hey, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm wrong. Like I said, I didn't know his contract status with Ring of Honor was still open. I thought it was a closed deal. Ron said, who's the third man? Chris Jericho. No, I don't know who the third man is. Maybe it's Eli Drake. Maybe it's James Storm. I mean, if it's going from somebody in the roster, those would be my two picks right there. Roscoe says, NWA has a weird hype vehicle. I was confused on why James Storm was main eventing Into the Fire. It's like under promise, over deliver. Yeah, okay, so I mean, they did a good job of hyping it up in the end, but I think if you would have led with that for weeks and weeks, it would have made more sense. But I also know that with NWA Power, they're starting fresh. So they have an opportunity to kind of paint the picture, put the storyline here, there, and wherever it works. Just personally, I don't think they made the best decision with James Storm. I still think Eli Drake is the guy that you should be putting Aldous in the matches with. But nevertheless, I'm not the booker. They're not paying for my opinion. I'm just like you guys. The only difference between me and you is I have a camera and you guys are leaving comments. That's the only difference. Okay. He shoot punched Hernandez. I think I heard that. Brett McKenzie, I think he got tired of dealing with Hernandez's shit and just socked him once. And I don't think there was any retaliation either. You know, another guy who I would like to see is, God, I'm forgetting his name, but they used to call him the Lucha Gore. Mike. Oh, DKM, I know you can help me out with this. He was the Michael Faith. Yes, you didn't have to help me. I figured it out. He's another guy that would be fun to see in the NWA. Kind of body shape-wise, kind of like Jeff Cobb, but can also fly like a luchador. Hey, Bulldog is on... See, what you guys don't know is I also have us on on a Twitch feed. And so Bulldog 1992 says, "Hey, man, what's up?" And I'm going to say, "What's up to you, Mr. Bulldog? Thank you for checking us out." Let's keep going with what you guys are talking about. You guys are more fun than I am sometimes with what you want to talk about. I don't know if you're familiar with them, Jay, but I would love to see 4 minutes of Heat, Ricky Gibson and Eddie Pearl as a tag team in CWF, or NWA in the future. I'm not, but you know what? I'm going to look into it because one of the videos I want to do soon is I want to make a video where I talk about who I think should be in the NWA, like a prospect list, like who could the NWA steal or recruit to help bolster some of their opportunities? Because again, you've got 5 championships, right? The world's, the national title, the tag team title, the women's title. Now you're gonna have the TV title, and honestly, there's 6 women wrestlers. There is 15 total singles wrestlers in the NWA right now that are on Power. So you can't even really make a top 10 without including the other champions. And then we're talking about even the enhancement talent like Sal Renaro. So the NWA needs more talent and to showcase all these titles. So I really feel like that might come into fruition. It might be fun to do. Marty is on an appearance basis. DKM, do you mean Marty's working with the NWA on an appearance basis or with Ring of Honor? Please. Oh, with Ring of... Hey, you already clarified it. Thank you, sir. Lamb says, a rumor is that Ring of Honor want to give Marty Scurll a big money contract to stay. Lamb, that isn't a rumor, man. That's fact. That is fact. I can't say how I know some things, but I know some things. And I know Ring of Honor has actually offered a couple of big money contracts to some of your favorite wrestlers. And I'm going to say right now, just don't count Ring of Honor out just yet. I know they've got a lot of bad publicity here in the last 6 months or so. Don't count them out. Sinclair's got money. Ring of Honor is going to, if the people sign who I think are going to sign, Ring of Honor is going to be run like a machine. All right, what else we got here? DKM says Michael Faith. Yes. Yeah, I got there before you did. Roscoe says Ricky Gibson comments a lot on NWA stuff. I wouldn't mind knowing more about him. Yeah, I'll check him out too. J. Cal, do you have any comments on Jushin Liger? Roscoe, thank you, brother. Thank you for opening up the forum. Jushin Thunder Liger. I didn't even have that on my notes. Jushin Thunder Liger. Let's not diminish the importance of this wrestler whatsoever. Jushin Thunder Liger should go into every Hall of Fame. Every Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. Liger has competed everywhere. Liger has been in New Japan, obviously, but he's wrestled in Mexico. He's wrestled in the U.S. He's wrestled, look, his career spans generations. He was in WCW. He was the WCW light heavyweight champion. DKM sourced me on that. Didn't he beat Brian Pillman? Or maybe did Pillman beat him? I don't know. he was there for the octuple titles. He was part of that era of pro wrestling. He had been in NXT, been in Ring of Honor, been in WWE, been in the NWA. I mean, there is no wrestler that has that as a resume. I mean, nobody, right? Nobody. My fondest memories of Jushin Thunder Liger are seeing him appear in WCW when I was a kid and saying, wow, that guy is awesome. He looks like a comic book hero. Bulldog 1992 on the Twitch feed wants to know what my favorite Disney movie is. I'm going to say Avengers Endgame. But getting back to Jushin Thunder Liger, what he was able to do in the ring, you know, I think at the time WCW was touting talents like Scotty Flamingo and Brian Pillman and Brad Armstrong in their junior heavyweight division or their light heavyweight division. And then you brought in his accomplishments are like immeasurable. There's nobody that's ever done what he's done. There will never be anybody that can do what he's done. I give him all the praise in the world. He's a former NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion. He defeated Steve Anthony. DKM source me. He defeated, I think it was Scott Anthony for the TV title. Excuse me, for the Junior Heavyweight title. And yeah, he was everywhere, guys. You can't. Okay, maybe he did beat Chase Owens. I'm not sure. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't write it down. I wasn't expecting to talk about Liger. I got to meet Liger. I posted a photo of he and I on Twitter. It was really cool to see him. Like, I don't get geeked out much when it comes to wrestling. There are very few photos of me with wrestlers, and honestly, the autographs that you see here are because I signed up for VIP packages just so I can get in there and get in there and meet wrestlers, try to do some interviews, try to create content. I'm not a big memorabilia fan. Again, this wall, most of these were done within the last year. Some of the older stuff, again, it's not really my cup of tea. But it was cool seeing Jushin Liger. I'm glad he got such a great send-off with New Japan Pro Wrestling. I did get to see him live wrestle in Long Beach at the New Japan Pro Wrestling show here in Southern California under the NWA World title against Tiger Mask. You could be correct. I know that Tiger Mask 4 is a former World Junior Heavyweight Champion, and he and Rocky Romero, who was at the time Black Tiger Mask 4, exchanged the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title and I believe the NWA World Junior Heavyweight title. Romero came to New Japan Pro Wrestling as Black Tiger Mask with the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship, and he began a feud with Tiger Mask 4, who was the IWGP champion, which I believe Romero had the title and then lost both titles, and then I'm not sure exactly how the title eventually ended up on. Oh wait, I do remember. Then Tiger Mask 4 came to the United States and lost the NWA World Junior Heavyweight title to Mike Quackenbush. Quackenbush held that belt for like 3 years, what at least it felt like, before losing it to Craig Classic, And, when Craig Classic was the Junior Heavyweight Champion, he dropped the title, when the Sheik was stripped of the title, I had my notes for the show, and I point up because, like, you guys can see behind the camera, but I had notes for the show. Roscoe, that's awesome. I'm glad you like it. My wife doesn't enjoy it. Honestly, I don't know why. I try to talk to her about Steve Corino and Sabu wrestling for the NWA World Heavyweight title in ECCW, but she doesn't seem to care. I don't get it. Stan says time goes by fast. Yeah, man. Again, guys, I really appreciate you guys checking me out. Like I said, I know there's options. I know you guys have someone else who's doing a podcast right now, right along with us. I wanted to be inclusive. I wanted to do this show and then let the NWA do their show, and then everyone could go check out the recap show afterwards. Well, you guys, I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me today. The pre-party. Watch, Roscoe, you don't want that, man. I practiced it and it wasn't good. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll do it for a pay-per-view. We'll try, I don't know. It might be. See, I'm not funny. I'm not good like wrestling days. I don't scream at the camera. I don't do that. That'd be fake. But this is the time of the show where it's 2:58 here local time, which means it's 5:58 on the East Coast, which means you got about 8 minutes, 7 minutes to go get your soda pop and get ready to watch some NWA Power. So guys, thanks again for tuning in. I'm putting up more podcasts. You're going to see some more stuff here soon. Kevin and I are getting back on track after the holidays, so you'll see the Alliance Guys podcast recaps coming up soon. Plus, I did another Road Wild with Daryl. We'll try to get that up soon on YouTube. It's also available on our Anchor podcast channel. You go to anchor.fm/TheAllianceBlog. Of course, all the socials at The Alliance Blog. You guys made my day. Happy New Year to all of you. I hope you get everything that's coming to you, and I mean that in the most positive way. Until next time, guys, I'll see yous at the matches.